So let's do that. This is Western Civ. Post 1689. Really, it's post 15. Where are we starting? Starting with absolutism, so like post 1500, really. Because I feel like we need some background because this is like we're starting with the French Revolution. It's like we can't just start with the French Revolution, and I'll get kind of into that in a minute. So yeah. Anyway, most of you know me, Mr. Holt, Riley. I don't care what you call me. Um, anyway, again, this isn't an especially professional class. um, as long as we're paying attention and doing what we're doing, we'll be all right. If you have any questions, let me know. Um, this is my favorite section of history to teach. I'll go ahead and get that out of the way right away. This is the most fun I have teaching. Period. So I'm going to enjoy myself. You guys are going to be along for the ride. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and get ahead of myself here. Crazy shit happens. I mean, in the 1800s period, even here in America, but like Europe, good lord. So yeah, there's a lot of just crazy things going on. So we talked about history with who, what, where, when, why, and how. We talked about Napoleon at Waterloo. Napoleon was defeated. Waterloo, 1815. Again, some of you haven't had me last semester. I'm not too big on dates. If there's an important date, I'll be like, hey guys, this is an important date. Maybe you know it. But that's like one, maybe two a test. Sometimes none a test. I've had that happen. It's like, oh wait, I don't have any dates on this test. Oh well. So, whatever. You don't have to worry too much about that. But this is why we're here. Why did Napoleon lose the war? Well, the British say it was Wellington. When I was over in Ireland, there was this whole big monument in Phoenix Park that was built for Wellington out of Napoleon's melted down cannons, because the cannons were made of bronze, so they made for good bas reliefs. But also, Wellington was very much on his way to getting his ass kicked before the Prussians came in and saved the day. Granted, the Prussians had retreated off the field earlier in the day, so it was a real mixed bag as to who beat Napoleon. So yeah, also, Napoleon's army was much smaller and less experienced than his armies had been throughout his entire career, because most of them were just like dudes that saw Napoleon had returned to France, were like, oh, we're going to join up with Napoleon, and they had no actual experience. So yeah, there's a lot of reasons as to what actually went down. They all kind of had to converge. So the historical lens, this is something that is actually in your material for 103, so you guys don't actually need it for this class. But I like to at least bring it up each semester because it's a neat concept to remember. And it's just that we don't view history objectively. It's impossible. We are a subjective creature. We look back with bias. We look at anything with bias, whether we mean to or not. So, for example, during the Cold War, we would look back at Napoleon and seen his reign as somehow socialistic, therefore an analogy of Soviet Russia, and well, Napoleon failed, so therefore Soviet Russia was going to fail because we were real scared, and we were hoping, the USSR was going to fall. Um, and now at a time when social equality is more the big thing, we look back at, say, monarchy France, and then Republican France, and then Napoleon-controlled France, and like, okay, so Napoleon's in charge, the monarch's in charge, and then like Robespierre's in charge, and Napoleon's in charge. Great. What about everybody else? What about the underclass? What about the women? What about the people who aren't in charge? What are their lots in life during all of this change in power? And neither of these is wrong. Now again, granted, we can look back at the Cold War and kind of laugh because it was a little bit desperate, but also granted it was nuclear war they were worried about, and assuming we get done with the material early enough, we will watch a video at the very end of the semester. Sorry, a movie at the very end of the semester going over a lot of this Cold War tension stuff. It's one of my favorite things ever. Anyway, what happened in the past doesn't change, but why it happened, at least in our minds, or at least I shouldn't even say that. The points we focus on change. The parts that we really dig into change, and I feel like especially the little people, the underclass, the 99%, if you will. That to me is interesting because that's not the people that get talked about. When you talk about the American Revolution, it's George Washington and John Adams and blah blah blah. It's like, well, what about the soldiers that were actually doing the fighting? The ones that were on the ground and in the mud, getting shot. You don't hear about them, not usually. So that's again, we're obviously speaking from a bias because that's the modern day. So, yeah. Anyway, history about Babylon society, etc., etc. But the saying is, why do we phrase that? Why do we bother with all of this? Why do we care about some Frenchman and all the stuff he did like 200 years ago? And the argument is those who fail to learn from history didn't repeat it. But I don't think we're going to go on horseback and take over like all of Europe. But it is our legacy. The past is always going to shape the present, and what we do now is going to shape the future. Also, Napoleon wasn't French. He was Corsican. He was from this little island off the coast of France that was taken over right before he was born. Therefore, he was a French citizen being born in France. And his father hated the French. And he had something against the French. But they took advantage of the fact that he was a minor noble, he was able to get into military school, and he excelled. And due to these circumstances, we're still talking about him today. And due to all of that, he became one of the most powerful men in history. So, great. Why do we bother with all this stuff in the middle? Because we've got Napoleon, obviously the World Wars, but why like Louis XIV? Because we're going to spend a lot of time on Louis XIV. He's pretty important. Imperialism, which is going to be my favorite thing, at least until we get to, we're not going to talk too much about the Cold War, because that's like really tail end of the semester. But why all this middle stuff? And it's incomplete without the middle stuff. And again, if you've had me, you've heard this. I compare it to Lord of the Rings with just the fight scenes. It's a lot, and again, especially with the extended cuts, it's basically an entire movie. But you don't know why they're there or who you're supposed to be rooting for. I mean, it's usually pretty easy to tell who you're supposed to be rooting for. One side is the orcs. But you don't know, like, what's at stake with the war. What's going to happen if one side wins or loses? Or as I end it, why are there walking trees? And now that I have seen Lord of the Rings, thanks to my Lord of the Rings mega fan friend, why are the elf and dwarf aggressively flirting with one another? And if you have seen Lord of the Rings, you get that. So, the reason why we can't just take a piece out and look at it and move on to like the next interesting thing is that history works in patterns, and they all flow together. It's all a single story. Louis XIV created these stronger monarchies, but that's all due to literally the entire last semester. Goes back to the Renaissance, and before that, the plague and the Middle Ages, and before that, Rome and Greece, and just everything beyond that. That all builds upon one another. And then with Louis XIV creating the stronger monarchies, European kingdoms becoming world-spanning empires, leading to the Age of Exploration, which eventually led to the rebellion of these various empires, or their colonies. So the old empires of Europe wanted an old-fashioned war to feel better about themselves, which unfortunately for them led to World War I, which destroyed Germany's economy, which allowed a man like Hitler to come to power, and thus World War II. And then with Soviet Russia being the only country that wasn't crushed by the Great Depression, they were the ones that eventually rolled over Nazi Germany and created the power blocks that would eventually be the Cold War. And that would, of course, further lead into the modern day. And as I said, you go back to 103, you go the line, you can draw the line just all the way back, really. So, with all this, with history existing in patterns, can it predict the future? No. But you can get close. It can inform people, which is to say us, to make the future as good as it can, avoid mistakes of the past, like a land war in Russia, which used to be a funny little historian joke, and unfortunately it's getting less and less of a joke as days go on. It's okay to stand on the shoulders of giants, because whether we like it or not, the foundation of history is always going to be there. You can ignore it. You can be like, well, I'm just going to start a new path. Like, it doesn't matter. You're always going to be walking on the past. It's always there. And again, as a historian, and you see the patterns of not very long ago, not even 100 years ago, and then today, it's like all I can do is scream. It's great. And a little bit of levity. History can be traced by its wars, and war never really changes. Throw that in. So, for class, come to class. Obviously, for my online students, watch the videos. That's the same thing, I guess. For attendance, for you guys in here, don't miss 2 weeks in a row. If you're not here for like half a month, I'll just assume you're not in my class anymore. I will email you and ask you if you're good. But that's technically 4 days. That's 4 consecutive class days. So if you miss a couple of days and then you're back, and you miss a couple of days later in the semester, I don't kick you out of the class. That's not how it works. It's got to be 2 weeks in a row, 2 weeks consecutive. That's my attendance policy. Other professors do different things. Francis Marion isn't as strict about it as like Tri-County Tech was. That's where most of my stuff comes from. That's where I worked before. They made you key in attendance every day, and they would like start sending out warnings to people when they like got to their 3rd day in a row. They were a lot more strict. Francis Marion's like, if you don't come to class, you just don't get a good grade. As far as the material, I'm aware that this is out of print. If you can get your hands on one, do not spend a lot of money on this. If you can get one like secondhand or archive.org PDF version, or any, I don't know if it might not be on archive.org, but there are archive sites that specifically have textbooks. If you can get it, great. If you can't, whatever. Don't stress about it. This is not something you need to stress about. Everything that is going to be on the test is either going to be up here, which is to say a PowerPoint, or up here because it's a video I'm showing you. And if it's a video, it's probably going to be extra credit anyway. But that's still technically on the test for me. So yeah, it's not. I'm not like some professors where it's like, oh well, half of it's going to be from the notes and half of it's going to be from the book. I'm not going to read the book every damn semester. It's awful. So yeah, he comes from the notes. But the notes do come from the book, so the book is still helpful. But it ain't gonna kill you if you can't get your hands on it. Especially since I'm using an out of print book now. All of a sudden that happened. I'm like, well, haven't had the time to get into the book. Sorry. Do the work. So do the test and the papers, because if you don't do the test and papers, I always say I can't grade them, but I can, but you don't want the grade that you would get for something you don't turn in. Now that said, if you miss an exam, well, you online folks, you have a freaking week. There's no excuse. For you guys, if you miss an exam day, we have a testing center over by the front office. So if you miss a day when we have a test, just email me and let me know when you'll be able to come back, and you can take it, and it's not a big deal. For you folks online, I will post it on Blackboard. You have a week. Get it done. Get it done sooner rather than later, because you know how Blackboard is all I will say. Also ask questions if you have any questions. I don't know them unless you ask them. So, yeah. There's my email. That's going to be the main thing for you online folks, obviously. Specifically for my online folks, if you want me to get something immediately, send me an email. The Blackboard messaging system doesn't really alert me right away. I've gotten Blackboard messages like a week, 2 weeks later. I'm not going to get that right away. If you need to get to me right away, send me an email. That said, I had insomnia for like a decade, so there's a good chance that if you send me an email like 2 a.m., I might get to it right away and respond to you. There's an equal chance that if you send me an email at 2 p.m., I might be knocked out. So, at least on a day that I'm off. Although, I don't know, I might go home today and have a little snooze. Who knows? I will get back to you, but it is a roll of the dice how quickly it will be. It will be as quickly as possible. It's just I don't know what the possibility is. And then also, no. I can't talk about this. I will get on a rant. I will get angry. It's still on somehow, is the thing. They're still making episodes. I remember that earlier today. It's like this is still, they're on like season 30 something. It was supposed to be this isn't really a relevant joke when I put this PowerPoint together 10 years ago. But it's still a relevant joke because this still exists. Anyway, let's pull up the syllabus so I can go over some more specific stuff. Change the display, which the thing isn't going to like. Yeah, you didn't like that at all. Then it changes the resolution for some reason. Great. Awesome. I don't know how that looked for you folks online, but I'm sure it wasn't pleasant. Okay. So, this is the syllabus. It should already be up on Blackboard. I put it up right before class started. Yeah, catalog description. We don't need to go over all that. This is the book. Like I said, it's very likely going to be very difficult to get your hands on. Oh, that's fun. If you can, great. If not, don't stress about it. I don't need you guys stressing about things you don't need to stress about. Blah 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 blah. This is the course. This is the entire course right here. Yeah, and again, that's again the entire course more or less. So the way I do it is we're going to have hopefully 3 tests, 2 papers, and the final. They're all weighed the same. Again, you guys that have had me, you know how this works. So that means you can drop 1 grade. Since they're all weighed the same, there's no kind of weird calculations I have to do because I'm not a math major. Forget that. I set it up so that if you screw up a test, you can do both papers and drop the test. If you do well on your test, you can just toss the paper and not worry about it. Or if timing is bad on something, you can just not worry about that instead of stressing yourself out and just do the rest of them. Helps everybody. Now, I can't drop the final. Everybody has to be here for the final. That's the only one. Other than that, that's how it works. So, tests are, do I have how I did it? No? Wow, I'm the worst. So, the tests are multiple choice and short answer. Again, short answer are basically multiple choice without the multiple options. It's just give me the word. Where did Napoleon's final defeat take place? And you say Waterloo, stuff like that. Like it's not an essay. And as I've said to my other classes, I don't know what these high schools have been doing to you guys. You don't have to repeat the question and then give me the answer at the end. I don't know who thought that was a good idea. That's unnecessary. That's busy work. Nobody needs busy work. I hated busy work. So that's not how we go. That's not how we do things here. The grade scale is 10 points. I think that's how most schools do that anyway now. There's my email again. I don't have an office, so if you need to talk to me, you can show up before class because I have a class right before this one. So I kick them out about. Well, technically they end at 9:45. I usually get rid of them a little bit earlier. So you can come in early and talk to me. You can talk to me after class. You're welcome to just ask me questions in class. And if you need to talk to me outside of that time period, there is like a weird little, that way again, like adjunct cubbyhole they gave us, if you want to actually do like an office talk thing. Or again, just email me. Whatever works for you. I attempted to do dates back when I first started teaching. I don't do that anymore. After 3 chapters, we have a test. I was never able to really keep up with the dates that I set. It never perfectly worked out, so I was like, rather than stress myself out, it's just whatever. We do three chapters and we do a test. So yeah, 14, 15, 16, test. 17, 18, 19, test. So that's how it's gonna work. Obviously, we're going to have a review day before each test, like we always do. There will be a study guide. I'll put the PowerPoints up as we finish each chapter. it's all gonna be there. And again, the final exam will not be cumulative. It will be just the last 3 chapters. Actually, is that how I do it in this class? No, it is not. I do not get to chapter 26. That's insane. We usually get to chapter 24. So it's like 23 and 24. I do. Interwar era and World War II, because that's plenty of information. Yeah. Okay. Anyway. Yeah. I usually try to get about a chapter a week. And these are the paper assignments. They're right here on the syllabus. Paper assignments, paper topics. These are the default. These are, if you can't think of anything that you want to do yourself, there you go. Now again, I have the textbook as a jumping off point. Whoops. You don't need that necessarily, because again, it's all going to be in the notes. You're expected to use outside sources. So this is just did the French Revolution end with Napoleon? That's the question. And you use sources and whatnot in your research to decide that. Or if you want to do something else, you're more than welcome to. If it's something that you find interesting, you're going to have a better time writing it than if it's something that you feel like you have to write. I mean, obviously, you have to write a paper regardless, but if it's like, oh, I don't feel like talking about Napoleon, who cares about that? I want to talk about, Gustavus Adolphus. We'll get to that. You're going to have more fun researching and writing that, I guarantee you. So, yeah, feel free. That said, bring your suggestion to me before you choose a different topic, just so I can let you know if it's not going to be something that's too broad. I can't think of somebody off the top of my head, but like, for example, in American history, you can't do a biography of George Washington as your 2 to 3 page paper. That's too much for that size of paper. You need to narrow it. So, yeah. Also, if you're having a better time writing it, I'm going to have a better time reading it. But as far as the first one, it's basically from the beginning of the book to... Well, the second one's World War I, so I guess, like, World War I. And then the second idea is, like, who do you think caused World War I? Because there's this whole thing about who caused it. I goofed there. Yeah, that's the whole thing. I mean, I did a course on this, literally. Anyway, you're welcome to use all sorts of stuff. And again, something else if you feel like it. Do I have... Oh, I don't. Great. So, I need to bring this up. Unfortunately, I don't have it on the syllabus. Plagiarism. Don't. Plagiarism is, by definition, using words, or I guess really information that's not yours and passing it off as yours. So that's what the citations are for. You cite where you got your information, especially when you, and that's not just you have a works cited page and then you can just use their stuff wholesale. When you have a paragraph and you use information from a source, you put the citation at the end of the paragraph, or if you use multiple sources, you put it at where you've had to use each source. If you use quotations, and I suggest you use quotations because that shows that you've been doing your research, make sure you cite at the end of that quotation. Do not copy and paste an article and just hand that in as your paper. Do not, if you have friends or family in this class, hand in the same paper as them, because I read all the papers. And do not and unfortunately, I hate that I have to add this, do not use ChatGPT or whatever other AI paper writing things are out there, because AI by definition is plagiarism, and also it's not your work. So don't do that. And to further impress upon you the reason you don't want to do that, strike one, plagiarism. You fail the assignment, period. There's no do-over, there's no try again. You fail it. Also, it goes up to at least the head of the department. It's not just a me thing. To my discretion, you can be kicked out of the course. If the higher-ups feel like it's necessary, you can be kicked out of dual enrollment. And if this wasn't your first offense, you can be blacklisted, and it'd be very unlikely you ever make it to college at all. Plagiarism is an academic crime. Don't do it. Because if you're seen as, oh, this is the one that copies other people's work, you can't be trusted. That's why if you ever hear about, like, people in scholarly fields, oh, well, they're accused of plagiarism, like, that's a big deal. That's a huge deal. Obviously, it's not going to go that far, but you don't want to start here and have that as an offense. So if the paper's coming up and you don't have time, just don't do the paper. That'll be your drop grade. You've got 2 months until it's due. The first one, oh, I didn't mention, the first one's not due until until right before spring break, and Francis Marion spring break is the 16th through the 20th of March. So for us, it will be due the 11th. You've got about a month, 2 months. Yeah, got about 2 months. That's a lot of time for a 2 to 3 page paper, double space, 12-point font. A lot of time. So yeah, you'll be fine. And then the final paper is due before the last day of class, which would be for us, technically the last day of class is here, so it'll be 22nd, so I can have both of the papers in that weekend. Yeah. Not a huge ask. But now this one will be slightly more of a problem because this is when all your other crap's going to be due. So that's why I suggest trying to do everything earlier, and you can just not do that one if you've done good on your tests. But that's up to you. That's the thing about college, is you get to make the decisions. And also you get to reap the consequences. So, what else? Yeah, as I said, they're weighted equally, so you do get to drop one thing. I still got the Tri-County College, technical college attendance thing, so don't worry about that. I still have their, am I on the wrong, hold on. Syllabus. No, that's it. I thought I'd changed that. Well, there's some Tri-County Tech stuff. Anyway, as I said, email me if you need me. If you have a question in class, speak up in class, because if you have a question, I'm sure other people do as well. So yeah, and again, as I said, this is my favorite history class to teach, so I'm going to be having fun. Show up to class and stay awake, and you should have a little fun too. All right, that's all I've got. Any questions from you guys before we go? Great. So as I said, I've already got this up on Blackboard, and since this is a hybrid course, I will go ahead and put the video of what we just did up on Blackboard as well. Mostly for the hybrid students, but also for you guys to review as you please. Oh, For my online students, you guys don't have to worry about this. Well, actually, you do need to listen to this so you know not to worry about it. For attendance, each time we have a full week, I will do a discussion question. And my online students just need to respond to it, and that's their weekly attendance. You guys don't need to worry about it. You're probably still going to get pinged with it. Just don't worry about it. So yeah, that's it. Also, we're not here next Monday because it's MLK Day, so I will see you folks next Wednesday.